All right, if you're a learning designer, you already know this. When learners are in charge of their own journey, the old rulebook for how to structure content pretty much goes out the window. So, the big question is, how do you build a path that's flexible but still actually leads to real learning? Well, today we're going to break down 4 really powerful sequencing patterns made just for those moments.
I mean, this is it, right? This is the fundamental challenge. When you can't be there to guide someone step by step, how in the world do you create a structure that works? It's a huge deal. And, getting the sequence right can be the difference between a course that empowers somebody and one that just completely overwhelms them.
And that's exactly why we're here. Today, we're going to add 4 distinct patterns to your design toolkit. Think of these as practical, ready-to-use frameworks you can start applying right away to make your courses more intuitive and, frankly, more effective for your self-directed learners.
So our first 2 patterns really come down to one single question. What's the main goal? Do you need the learner to understand a concept, or do you need them to be able to do a task? Your answer is going to point you in the right direction.
First up is what's called specific to general, or inductive sequencing. This is what you'd call a bottom-up approach. You give learners a bunch of examples or cases, and you let them be the detective. They have to piece together the underlying rules for themselves. This is classic constructivism, the whole idea that we build our own understanding through experience.
So, when would you use this? Well, it's absolutely perfect when your main goal is deep, conceptual understanding. It's fantastic for problem-based learning, or really anytime you want to spark that curiosity and let the learner have that incredible aha moment of discovery.
And this gives us a really clear rule of thumb. If your outcome is conceptual, helping someone truly get a principle, go with specific to general. But if the outcome is all about performance, actually applying judgment in a real-world situation, then our next pattern is probably going to be a much better fit.
And that brings us to problem-centered sequencing. With this one, you basically throw the learner right into the deep end, but you give them a life raft. The entire learning experience is built around solving one single realistic problem. And as they work on it, they pick up the skills and knowledge they need right when they need them. It's kind of like a cognitive apprenticeship.
Now, getting the problem just right is absolutely crucial here. It needs what we call desirable difficulty. That means it's got to be challenging enough to keep them engaged, but not so hard that they just get frustrated and give up. This is exactly why it works so well for adult professionals, especially in something like leadership training, where applying good judgment is the whole point.
Okay, our next pattern shifts the focus. We're moving away from just solving a single problem to mastering an entire task, from start to finish.
This is task-centered sequencing, and it's based on M. David Merrill's hugely influential work. So, unlike just tackling one problem, this approach structures everything around completing whole tasks. The learner starts with a simple but complete task, and then they just move on to more and more complex versions of that same task.
This quote just perfectly captures the spirit of it. See one, do one, teach one. It's that classic model for hands-on learning you see in medicine, in the skilled trades, everywhere. It's just an incredibly powerful and intuitive cycle.
The whole process follows this really clear cycle. First, the learner watches a demonstration of the entire task. Then, they try it themselves, but with scaffolding and support to guide them. And finally, they integrate that new skill into their actual work. It's a straight line from observation to real-world performance.
All right, our final pattern for today also deals with complexity, but it does it in a really unique way. It's all about building outwards from a simple but totally functional core.
This one's called elaboration sequencing. And the big idea here is to start with what's called an epitome, which is just a fancy word for a simplified but complete and working version of the final task. You can almost think of it like building a minimum viable product. You give the learner a functional whole right from day one.
So the flow is really straightforward but powerful. You start with that simple version, the epitome. Once the learner nails that, you start to elaborate. You add new layers of complexity, new features, more details, one stage at a time. And the key thing is, at every single step, the learner has a complete working version of the skill.
So there you have it. We've walked through 4 powerful sequencing patterns. Now the fun part really begins. Thinking about how you can actually put these to work in your own projects. So let's do a quick recap of your new toolkit. You've got specific to general for when the goal is deep understanding. You've got problem-centered when learners need to apply judgment. Task-centered is your go-to for mastering whole tasks. And finally, elaboration is perfect when you're building a complex skill layer by layer.
Now we've really only scratched the surface today.
If you want to see some concrete examples of each of these patterns in action, you should definitely check out the full source post that this explainer is based on. It'll really help bring all these concepts to life.
So, I'll leave you with this question to chew on. As you look at your next project, at your learners, at your content, which one of these patterns feels like the right fit? Purposefully choosing your sequence is one of the most powerful moves you can make as a designer. Thanks for watching.